Hi, Dan Thies here for Link Liberation with Week 3, Practice Module Number 1. This is Video 1, Link Liberation from Scratch, the Persona. Before we begin, I'd like to talk for just a minute about business models for the World Wide Web. There are only a limited number of functions or business models for a website to take on. These include e-commerce, where you take money from people for someone. That is, you actually do transactions on the web. This may be information products, this may be subscriptions, and this may be physical products that are shipped. There are lead generation business models, which involves generating leads for follow-up. For example, anything from an email address to a mortgage refinancing quote request. There are any number of ways to monetize content by publishing content and selling advertising on it. Online newspapers and things like that are pretty common, but of course you've probably heard of the made for AdSense type sites as well. And then there are self-service sites like the online banking and other services where it's not about e-commerce, it's not about generating leads, it's about customer support. Almost everything, almost every website that you find and almost every business that you find is some hybrid of these. Even e-commerce store owners who ship physical products are probably engaged in lead generation. And when they're doing the kind of stuff that we talk about in Link Liberation, they'll also often have blogs where they're selling advertising to offset the cost of creating content. And of course, most folks, once their business gets big enough, will have at least a little bit of self-service type of stuff on their website for customer support, help people find tracking numbers for shipments, or whatever else the case may be. And so to help with the teaching in Link Liberation, I decided that one of the best things that I could do was actually start a new business live during the course and then walk you through the process as I'm actually working on it with that business. Now, we had another business in mind, but a lot of people talked me into doing a different one for this section of the course. And so I'm doing a website about dogs called Nice Bloggy. What's the business model for this? Well, definitely going to be selling some advertising, probably doing a little bit of affiliate marketing, which is just another form of advertising, and who knows what else we'll do. But the main function of the site and the main thing that we're going to be doing is providing news and information for dog owners. Well, who cares about this? That's a good thing to ask before you start a business. Of course, dog owners, and yes, it's kind of obvious, and that's part of the reason why we're doing this business instead of the other one, at least as material for you to learn from. Now, hold on. Now, if you actually go and look at Google and try to find Nice Bloggy, you won't see much of a website there. That's because I don't actually have the website built yet. I am literally doing this live as we go through the course. And of course, if you go through the course later, you'll see it. But for now, if you're going through the course live the first time with everyone else, there's no website there. Not yet. That's coming later. So because this practice module is all about implementation and actually putting Link Liberation into practice, I want to walk you through the main steps that we go through in the first couple sections of Link Liberation 3. This doesn't represent everything that we do in the course, but it represents the core activities that everyone is going to be involved with and have to contend with as you go through the course. Step 1 is persona development. And within that, we want to have a step where we sketch out the profile and find some topics. We'll set up the required accounts that we need. We'll build that initial following list, and then it's all about researching sources and stories. From there, there's deployment and management of our audience building system, and those first two steps we'll actually go through in this practice module. Further steps that will happen later on in the course in weeks 4, 5, and of course in the practice module in week 6 will be the website integration, how we work the systems that we're using to build an audience together with the social media accounts and things like that that we'll create and the extra ones that we'll add as we go through actually implementing this on your website, and the content creation that we use to make it much easier to create lots of valuable content and in a way that leverages the audience that you already have and helps you grow the audience even more. So let's start off with step 1A, the persona thumbnail sketch. For now, let's just call him Mr. H, and let's just say that he likes dogs. And that's pretty much the whole story for now. There are actually things in the works and things that are already out there. I just don't want you to see them yet. So all you get is Mr. H. Mr. H is going to be talking about dogs and dog training in particular, dog health, and a little bit of humor in the mix for the folks that like that kind of stuff. We do have a domain set up, and right now we've basically just got a placeholder blog at nicebloggy.com. We have a Twitter account. The handle is nicebloggy, and we do have that connected to Buffer as well, and I did spend the $12 or whatever it was to get the pro version. I do have a Google account that I'm using, but it's not for Google Plus or any of that stuff. We're not fooling with that stuff just yet. And we don't even have the Facebook account for this persona set up yet because, well, we probably don't actually need one. And we do have an account with Delicious.com, and that becomes important as you'll see in the next few videos. That's because Delicious is actually an important part of the way that I manage the link liberation workflow. So we've built up an initial following list using Klout searches, and the topics that Klout actually covers are dogs, pets, and animal welfare that are relevant to the stuff that we're talking about. The thing about Klout is that you can't get to drill down into super complicated topics like housebreaking or puppy training and stuff like that. The topics that they have are a little bit more general. We also did some Twitter searches using things like dog training, dogs, puppy training, puppies, house training, both searching for dog and dogs within the user list, as well as just doing searches for tweets to find people that were tweeting out stories. Now, my initial impressions of this, based on going through that process, are as follows. First of all, there are a few people out there sharing a little bit of information about dog training, but not a whole lot of people taking that angle. And there aren't a whole lot of people routinely sharing a lot of stuff that's worthwhile. In other words, there aren't a whole lot of people that you could follow on Twitter and actually get lots of good information about your dog. That's a good thing for us, by the way. One that I was kind of hopeful for is a guy named Cesar Millan who's got a show called The Dog Whisperer, and I was kind of hoping that he would have a social media presence that we could kind of piggyback on. As it turns out, he's not using the web very wisely, and he's, well, his website seems to be more dedicated to promoting other people's products than even talking about the stuff that he's an expert in. Good news for us. Well, good news for me anyway, and whoever actually ends up owning this business after we give it away at our live training in August. So, as we're using Twitter, I'm also looking, as I'm searching through and looking at people's tweets, I'm looking for hashtags that they're using. And one of the hashtags that I did not see much of is # dog training. And so we're going to adopt that as our own. We're going to embrace it. We're going to use that regularly. I did find a few for dog lovers, dogs, and dogs rule. And I saw just a few with Dog Whisperer and Cesar Millan, which, as people actually tweet and use those, that will help us find people that we'd want to follow because they're obviously interested in the same kind of stuff that we're talking about. And for later, we're not going to use this now, and I hesitate to even talk about it in this training at this point. We're going to establish one for # dog talk or dog chat if somebody jumps on and starts using dog talk. Nobody else is doing it. Nobody else is kind of running a regular feature on Twitter where they interview people and chat with people. So we're going to do that later. And once we have an audience that we can sort of bring to the party ourselves, or a friend, like, I don't know, maybe Caesar will want to join our party, a friend that we can interview on Twitter that can bring their audience along as well. Now, that's all exciting background on the business, but before that goes anywhere, we have to start doing some stuff to build an audience, right? So first we have to find some stories about this topic, the dogs and dog training and dog health and dog jokes. Second, we have to find some people, and right, people that we can follow, people that are sharing stories that we like, and then we have to repeat that process. It is an ongoing process. I will not find all of the stories that I'll ever use the first time I go looking for stories. I won't find all of the people on Twitter the first time. I'm going to find them as I go through and start participating in the conversation. More people will pop up. And to start, I just need enough stuff to get started. And so what I'm after here early on is to find, like I say, 50 stories or so that will let me fill up my Twitter pipeline for a week or two. And so next we'll get to exactly that in video number 2, from scratch, link collecting, and we'll meet the link collector there. Coming up after that, we'll talk about the plumbing and the routine. Then we'll have some market case studies that have been selected from the case studies that were submitted to us by students. And then we'll go over the Link Liberation 3 implementation guide, which is a document that you can use later on when the course isn't quite so fresh in your head to help you go through the steps. And even if you're going through it for the first time, to help you make sure that you're just going through the checklist and checking off all the boxes. And finally, in week 3, we will have some extras. There's a webinar that Leslie and I did on markets and topics where we literally went through dozens and dozens and dozens of different markets and suggested some topics and things that they could use. We will have some live, quote, action videos, which were actually planned to be the practice module themselves, but they turned out to be so boring that we're getting those re-edited and cut down, and you will get those in the extras where I am actually click by click, step by step doing boring stuff with Twitter and stuff. But for those that really want to watch over the shoulder while somebody does it click by click and step by step, I think you'll find those valuable. And of course, the final piece of the extras for week 3 is the implementation guide PDF. And this is the first section of a document that you'll be building as you go through the course. There are actually 2 other primary sections that will go in after that in the future sections of the course. And the third section of that is primarily going to be of interest to consultants and others that really need to push the marketing farther down the road or do it for a lot of different websites.